Yes, all right. Well, good morning, everybody. It's an honor for me to be acting Minister of Primary and Secondary Education, and I'm here to give a press statement on three things: the withholding of public examination results by schools and examination centres. The second, the request by some schools for purchase of uniforms only at schools. And the third point, charging of exorbitant fees by some schools. So I'll start with the first point, withholding of public examination results by schools and examination centres. It has come to the attention of the Ministry that some of our grade 7 graduates are having challenges to secure Form 1 places because their schools are withholding their 2019 grade 7 results. I would like to reiterate the national and ministry position that education is the enabling right of every child. While the charging of fees is provided for by the statutory instrument, the responsibility for the payment of the fees is with the parent or guardian. This is why ministry policy clearly states that no learner should be denied school on account of outstanding fees that will be owing. It follows that withholding the results of a learner on account of fees that are owed by a parent is unacceptable, and heads of schools are directed to release any results that may be withholding to enable the learners to proceed with their education without hindrance. Disregarding the directives given will have adverse consequences. On the second point, requests by some schools for purchase of uniforms only at that school. It has also come to our attention of the Ministry that some heads of schools are not heeding to the directive by the Secretary for Primary and Secondary Education that parents have a right to purchase school uniforms to best advantage, and are insisting that uniforms should be purchased only at that school. This again is totally unacceptable and has the potential to unjustly increase the cost of education for the parents and guardians. For the avoidance of doubt, pursuant to the need to promote access to education for all, parents and guardians and learners shall be allowed to purchase school uniforms to the best of their advantage. Schools submit the requirements to the parents and guardians, who will procure the uniforms the best quotation that they can get. Those with the capacity to make their own uniforms are encouraged to do so. All heads of schools are enjoined to ensure good governance and transparent, corrupt-free processes in the management of schools and the procurement of school uniforms by parents and guardians. The third point, on exorbitant fees. The government of the Republic of Zimbabwe, through the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, primary and secondary education institutions, and the citizens of Zimbabwe have an obligation to guarantee access to education for all children. The intention is to ensure that education prepares all children well for their future and for them to make their contribution to the development of the nation. Therefore, everything possible must be done in order to ensure that education is affordable. Statutory Instrument 159A of 2007 gives the official requirements for the approval of fees. In the light of the above, schools that wish to increase fees and levies need to submit their applications to the Secretary of Primary and Secondary Education for approval. This approval has to be received by the schools before any increases are effected. In order for the Secretary to appreciate the basis upon which fees and levies are calculated, schools need to submit, together with their application, the following: current audited accounts, minutes of a properly constituted meeting of no less than 20% of school parents' assembly, and a proposed budget. The payment of fees and levies shall be made only in Zimbabwe dollars. For the avoidance of doubt, requests by schools for payment in a specific currency are not acceptable. At this time, I'm happy to take questions if there are any questions of that statement.
Yes, I've got a question.
Yes.
I wanted to ask on the issue to do with top-ups. Schools of late, due to inflation, were requesting that parents may pay fees in extra amount after they paid fees from the previous requested amount in their invoices. What is the government policy of that situation?
just want to find out what is the case with the ministry, because it looks like almost every school in Zimbabwe, public and private, are increasing the fees. Is it that they've been approved, or they are just disregarding government law?
Yeah, my question also add on to what they say. I just want to understand, what is the government going to do to all the schools that have already increased the fees?
And the last question also, that even that there have been a directive that schools are not supposed to send away kids for failure of paying school fees, but there are some certain schools which were also sending away children, especially for top-ups. I remember I was having some cases that I attended to, where children were sent away for failure to pay top-up fees.
And maybe you also want to know, has there been any reports from parents to the ministry to say this is a problem that we are facing? How many complaints have been coming to the ministry? How have they been dealt with? How many schools have been punished? How many headmasters have been disciplined? Because it looks like this legislation has been there for years.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll answer just a few, and then I'll pass the floor on to the permanent secretary who's here with us today, because I think she can give some more details. But as far as I am aware, in terms of top-ups, I believe it's the exact same process. If there are schools that are asking parents to top up, the process does not change. They still need those three things: the current and audited accounts. We don't want schools; they're not there to be making huge profits. They're there to be providing education. We need there to be a proper constituted meeting with at least 20% of parents, and there needs to be a proposed budget. All of that has to be sent to the ministry first. So if schools are topping up, and if they're doing that without the knowledge of the ministry, that is, from what I can see, illegal, and that's not something that they should be doing. We know, and we would need help as ministry of parents coming and reporting that, because there's only so much that ministry can do. We have hundreds of thousands of schools. If that is happening, we obviously have our ways of checking to make sure that this is not happening, but we need the help of the parents. If this is happening, please, we encourage you to come and report it so that we can do our job to follow up with those schools and make sure that those kinds of things are not happening. In terms of PS, I'll ask you to answer the other two questions, which were around the sending away of children, and then there was one on the percentage of complaints. Over to you, PS.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. In terms of the sending away of learners, as the Honorable Minister read, education is an inalienable right for every child. And the contract in terms of the funding of the education is between the parent or guardian and the school. The child doesn't come into it. So we have also sent guidelines and a circular to say no child will be sent away from school because of with the parents' failure to pay fees or levies. So again, what we are doing is just to make the communities aware that if that is happening, it shouldn't happen. It is illegal. It is against the rights of the child. So if it is happening again, as already indicated by the Honorable Minister, on a case-by-case kind of situation, we are waiting for the communities to make us aware of which schools are doing that. Then we can actually address them on a case-by-case situation. Number of complaints, we have 9,500 schools. And really, if we were to look at a percentage, I think really, I don't know whether it would be 0.01 or even less. But I think it could be a question again of parents not being aware. They have to raise. We have received a few, and we have addressed them as they come, because we want to check on a case-by-case situation. What are the real situations, and address them as they come.
I have a question now, Permanent Secretary. School authorities, they have to adhere to your directives as the Ministry of Education. If you say no child is supposed to be sent away and they continue to send away, what are the consequences.
I think the Honorable Minister did actually indicate that on a case-by-case situation again, the consequences are there. The legal route will be taken in terms of people who just flout regulations. Our quality assurance division checks, but at times, because of the number of schools, we are not able to reach every school. So that's why we are saying communities are free to actually alert us where this is happening. Then we can respond to it as it happens.
I would probably then conclude by saying the fears of victimizing of children, unless you go complain and your child is there at the school, they are.
Okay, thank you. There are many ways of reporting. Anonymous reports are very welcome if you're scared that your child can actually be victimized.
Thank you.
Does the ministry have adequate inspectors to ensure that you reach each and every school so that you are able to ensure that the guidelines are followed?
They are not adequate, and currently we do have quite a number of vacancies which are in that area. But it's an issue of budget where we can't actually get them. But we are in the process as a ministry of trying to increase the number of inspectors.
Well, figures of teachers, can you give us figures for the inspectors, the required number, those that are...
Not off the cuff.
So,
You made reference to, you admitted that parents are ignorant as to where they should report their cases. Is there any effort by the ministry to maybe conscientize the parents on the procedure of reporting? And then secondly, the minister made reference to the issue that after this press release, if headmasters or heads of schools are found wanting, there's going to be consequences. Can you share with us the consequences of those headmasters who are withholding the
what I've
results?
said is schools are not homogeneous, but we have set down regulations in this republic. So we will, depending on the case, the case is the one which will determine what happens to the head. We have disciplinary procedures, and as I said, we also have what we call complaints handling procedures. And in each of our sub-national offices, we have officers who are in charge of receiving those complaints. But it is good you are here because then you can actually make the communities aware of that avenue.
Minister, can we request that the PEMSEC just make some statements in vernacular shown and then so that some parents out there can understand the message?
Yes, that's no problem.
Okay, still on that issue. Still on that issue, I just wanted to find out, are you aware that some schools are, to a certain extent, abiding by what you're saying, that they should not send kids back home, but they will take the kids, take them maybe to the playing grounds, or even in the hall, close them there for the whole day or 2 weeks without even getting lessons, just because those children have not paid school fees?
yes.
We don't have reported cases for now. We would welcome any such examples. It is best if there is an example for it to come and then investigate.
Thank you.
So thank
Let
you
me
guys.
revert back to
Yes, so if you don't mind, I'll do a little closing. There were a few other points that were important for some of the members of parliament just for us to address. There won't be any follow-up questions on that. Once I've read that, we'll close up and then I'll ask, there's another room where you can go for the permanent secretary to speak in vernacular. So as we just heard, please, we're thankful that you're all here, because you help us get the word out to parents that we need their help in terms of reporting. It's very encouraged and it's very welcomed, as you've heard from the Permanent Secretary. There were just a few other points that came up from members of Parliament yesterday that I'd like to give some feedback on. The one question was on the 0% pass rate. And as ministry, we are still receiving all the results from the schools. So until we receive the full report, there really isn't a statement. So what figures are in the press right now are not figures that have come from ministry, and are not the correct figures. So I please ask that you all wait until we receive all of those reports and give the formal announcement of what is exactly happening region by region. The second one was on infrastructure. The increase of infrastructure in our schools. Government has completed 17 schools this year, and the communities and their partners, who are invaluable, have built up 150 schools. I think actually more than 150 schools, and this is a huge welcomed effort that we can only thank the communities, we can only thank their partners, and we welcome more PPPs that will allow us to really fulfill our mandate. So please keep that good work going, and thank you to all those communities and their partners. There was another question on ECD up to grade 2 and children being taught in their mother tongue. It is the government and ministry policy that from ECD up to grade 2, the policy is that students are taught in their mother tongue. That is something that we are fully aware of. We are developing and have recognized all languages. There are syllabus that are now ready for all 15 languages except for Sun, and that Sun is being worked on now. So all 16 languages will be in syllabus in the next few months. As I said, 15 are already in syllabus. The last 2 points that came up were teachers, the conditions and service of conditions. The ministry is very aware of it. I believe the minister has actually stated that heads should have a house before anything else is even built, because they are the ones that then manage the development of that school. So as ministry, we are very aware of what needs to be happened and what needs to happen. There are continual conversations that have already started with teachers' unions and all stakeholders, and will continue to happen. So we are aware of all of that. And finally, the recruitment of teachers. The ministry is working with the Public Service Commission in terms of ensuring that we have some new recruitments by January. That is ongoing. But please, we request that teachers that are already in the system, please make sure that you continue to register and that you are being registered and you're on that allotment. Make sure that you suddenly haven't not done the form or what's needed of you. Make sure that your registration is up to date so that we can start 2020 off with on the right foot. Those are all the statements that I have for you today. Thank you again very much. Thank you for helping us give the message out. I think the biggest thing that we rely on you is to help us educate our parents and guardians that if there are issues and they are facing challenges, as you've all brought up, please, they must come and report. If they are slightly nervous, as the Permanent Secretary said, there are ways of reporting anonymously. So please make sure that we come, and just thank you to all of our communities who have helped the ministry in terms of development of infrastructure. Thank you, everybody, and I hope you have a good day.